Support for Carolina Business Review provided by Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina, where healthcare is changing for the better. Find out how at ahealthysc.tv. And by Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services, with more than 300 operations in 35 countries.
Red state, blue state, purple all around. The challenges facing those who govern our cities, counties, and states are rapidly changing hue. Tax hikes, tax reform, build it up and tear it down. Invest today or pay tomorrow. It all depends on your color lens. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the most widely watched program on Carolina business and public policy. I'm Dr. Cheryl Richards, filling in for Chris William, and today's show promises to be full of color. It's our annual Mayor's Panel and a rainbow of topics, from historic preservation to future capital investment, from water to air, and changing dynamics within agency relationships and public-private partnerships. Join us now for perspectives and perceptions on the power of the position.
Major funding also by Novant Health, bringing you world-class technology, clinicians, and care when and where you need it. The Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. And by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. Who's responsible for rising healthcare costs? Join us and many others in a candid discussion at letstalkcost.com. This edition of Carolina Business Review was recorded August 16th, 2013. On this week's program, Mayor Terry Bellamy of the City of Asheville, Mayor Stephen Benjamin of the City of Columbia, Mayor Patsy Kinsey of the City of Charlotte, and Mayor Stephen Wukela of the City of Florence.
Welcome, everyone. So we've had a lot of rain in the Carolinas. Are there a few rainbows out there now?
Yes.
Where do we start? Do we start with the pot of gold, or should we start back somewhere with the rain? Lots to talk about in Carolina politics today. Let's talk about some of the politics and the personalities. Do you think we can get back to common ground at some point across the Carolinas?
Sure. I will tell you, if you're looking for common ground, you look at America's cities right now. While some would submit that D.C. is broken, maybe beyond repair, and we're seeing our state capitals challenges between those on the far left and far right, those who are looking for practical, pragmatic, thoughtful decision-making are looking to America's cities. Right now, America's cities and metro economies are where 90% of America's gross domestic product is produced right now. And people are gravitating towards downtowns as the vibrant urban center of wonderful and dynamic regions. And we're seeing in each of our cities people willing to work together across political philosophies and party lines to get things done, which is what I think our citizens want us to do.
Can we get things done with the way things are happening in our capitals?
I think we certainly can in our cities, for sure. As Mayor Benjamin points out, Washington is intransigent. Our state capitals have not been particularly productive and helpful. However, at home, I think we're able to get a lot of it done. That's true in Columbia and Asheville and Charlotte, certainly true in Florence. Senator Hugh Leatherman is my senator from Florence, and he's chairman of the Senate Finance Committee in Columbia in the Capitol. And he and I are from starkly different political backgrounds, but we've been able to do quite a lot in Florence to get things done. In fact, I ran against him about 5 years ago for Senate and lost badly. But when I became mayor, he said, you know what, we want to get things done at home, and we can work together, and we've accomplished quite a lot. I think that sense of mutual responsibility for your local area perhaps doesn't always filter up to Washington and Columbia and Raleigh.
I would just say this, that on the local level, it's not just at the politics. for our community is not just on the council. It's about our business community working with our council. So that's where the collaboration is happening. So when you look at economic development, it's successful because our local elected officials are working with the business entities to say, how can we help you be more successful? How can we help you grow? How can we ensure that you have the infrastructure in place for you to be strong? And so I think it's more of a collaborative nature that's working for us on a local level, that we're not looking at the D's and the R's. What we're looking at is how do we make sure that the quality of life is strong for our residents, as well as how do we make sure that when our visitors come to our communities, they're going to enjoy that stay, and they're going to remember that stay and make that investment in our community. And it's through that collaboration between those local elected officials as well as the business entities, including our chambers of commerce.
Well, I think the best services, or the most efficient services, the best thing you can do is to offer the services at the city level, the local level. And that, of course, is with the city. And I think because we all live, work, play, go to church, and do everything here at the local level, that's why we're in touch with everybody. I think sometimes when our legislators, who maybe they served at the local level, but now they're in Raleigh or Columbia, and they sort of lose that local feel.
We've certainly seen a little bit of that recently, haven't we? So let me ask, where does the power really reside? You've got folks making some policy in Raleigh or D.C., and we're living it here on a little different level.
Look, the power is always with the people. It really is. It rests with our citizens. And, the good thing about the local level is that our citizens can actually put their hands on us if they need to, in church, at the supermarket, what have you. And they expect us to get the basics done at home. We've had a good run the last several years. We finished 4 years with a budget surplus. We've gone 6 years without a tax increase and won't have one next year. We've used a very favorable capital markets to reduce our bonded indebtedness and save about $13 million for taxpayers. The money we've saved, we reinvested it in law enforcement and public safety, and made some sound investments, recognizing that our budget is a reflection of our values and what we value as a community. And we've seen crime go down precipitously, a homicide rate down 60% because we've moved our money to where it belongs. Citizens have a chance to tell us every single day what's important to them, and we have the opportunity to respond to them. I think that the further you go up, state level and federal level, that connection becomes a bit more diffuse and a bit more challenging to communicate and get things done.
Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit before the show about pulling all-nighters, and this is a tough career that you have chosen and a tough path. And so how do you keep yourself grounded in keeping the voice of your local residents and getting that all the way through your state legislators?
I'm mayor of my hometown, and so being mayor of the city that I grew up in as a young person and being able to see our community change over the years, I'm really proud of the fact that when we look at the fact that we've added more jobs per capita from January 2012 to January 2013, looking at that stint, knowing that it was done through collaboration, knowing that we are working towards a greater good in our community, it's easy to tell Asheville's story regardless of what happens in Raleigh. And I think it's important to point out, although the city of Asheville had several bills put in that were not favorable to our community, we still kept telling our story in Raleigh that, hey, we're adding jobs. We have companies coming, international companies coming to our community, not to relocate, but to expand their businesses. We have a high quality of life. We've reduced crime. We've made sure that we've made those key investments in downtown. We're making sure that we're working with our business owners. It's easy to tell that story. It's important to point out, I'm not responsible for how they respond, but I'm going to continue to tell the story that we're a great place to invest. We have seen an increase in room nights. We have over $1 billion of investment happening in our community when you look at all the economic development projects that's coming online, those that are planned, and those investments over the next few years, it's not just in 1 year, but over the next few years, it could be a whole lot stronger if we had the people in Raleigh working with us and not against us. But if we look at all the investments that people are proposing, thinking about putting together, that's coming to our area, it's huge. And so it's like, well, how do we make sure that happens? It's working together, because some of those could go away very easily. Mm-hmm. But it's about collaboration, working together. And so telling our story is important. How they respond, it's not been favorable this year. But we continue to tell the story that we're a great place to live, work, and play.
perpetual advocates, right? That's our role. Let's talk about Florence a little bit. Let's talk about a medical school, maybe?
Absolutely. And we've had great success doing exactly what Mayor Bellamy points to and developing our downtown as well. We're trying to emulate what's been done in Charlotte and Asheville and Columbia, of course. And
Take that to a certain point, but then don't emulate farther.
That's right. Well, we are our own place. But it's been able to be accomplished because of precisely those sorts of cooperations. We've got a great foundation in the Drs. Bruce and Lee Foundation in Florence, which is a product of our two major hospitals there in Florence. We've got a lot of help from Senator Leatherman, from our county, and certainly from the city. And we have, over the last 5 years, had about $100 million worth of investment in downtown Florence, a place that had been quite decrepit, really, frankly, for quite some time. The medical school is one of the examples of that. USC Medical School in Columbia is in need of third and fourth year clinic placements for their medical students. They had placed students in Greenville, South Carolina, and that program expanded to a 4-year program. And they were looking around for other places to go, and Florence said, listen, we have 2 hospitals, we serve an entire region of folks that need care, and we'd be a perfect place to be. Senator Leatherman helped and brought them to us, and with the help of McLeod Hospital and Carolinas Hospital in Florence, Francis Marion University, and their president, Dr. Fred Carter, we have now determined to build a $15 million campus in downtown Florence, third and fourth year medical students from USC Medical School, along with School for Nurse Practitioners and Physician's Assistants. $3 million of those dollars came from the city of Florence through a change in the way we gave credit for our local option sales tax. We have a local option sales tax like many communities have. We had given 100% credit using that tax off of real property tax. And as a result, the $100,000 piece of residential property in Florence until recently paid $22 in property tax a year, Mayor Bellamy.
No.
$22 a year. And so, and we were effectively able to finance our government a $70 million budget using money effectively off the highways, off of I-95 and 20. But we thought it was appropriate to roll that back somewhat, back to 85%. Generate about $1 million a year, and for the first 3 years contribute that to the medical school, which would be a $15 million investment. We're getting quite a good return on our money, I believe. And then in the next years, we'll be using that money in neighborhood development in the areas around downtown. The Drs. Bruce and Lee Foundation will be coming up with about $7.5 million. And the state of South Carolina is contributing $5 million, along with $1.8 million annually to operate the medical facility, and it's going to end up bringing quite a few students to downtown Florence, probably 200 in the initial phase, and then expanding after that. And that will change the dynamic, and that's possible because of people on the local level, state representatives, local leaders like myself and our council, nonprofits, all coming together and saying, listen, we can change downtown. We may have to raise a little bit of revenue to do it, but this is a wise investment for our future, and we haven't gotten any negative feedback for it whatsoever.
Can I speak to just one thing? What we did in our city to incentivize the development that we wanted to see along our corridors, we changed our land use planning policies to make sure that the developers who had a piece of property that was low performing, we're not getting the return on our investment for our taxes, and we said, well, look, if you increase the density, make sure it's transit-oriented development, make sure you have inclusive of affordable housing, we will provide some incentives in order for you to make it easier for you to make that investment in redeveloping that property. And what we're seeing is people taking advantage of that. And it's important to point out, sometimes we have to put the incentives out there on the table for the type of development that we want. And it pays back.
You see the return.
You see the return where it was a low-performing property where you didn't see the large numbers coming in for the tax revenue. But now when you see that investment, you get the jobs, you get the permit costs, and you get the overall property taxes.
That's right. Sure. And y'all seen that in Columbia, I know as well.
Yeah, we're very proud. A deal that's been discussed for 10 years to actually bring the Bull Street development finally to reality. For those people who aren't familiar with it, it's a 180-acre tract of land, literally 5 blocks from City Hall, the former Department of Mental Health property. That's been debated and discussed for a number of years, and is in the plans of being transformed into a world-class live, work, play, mixed-use community that promises to have a $1.2 billion economic impact on our city in perpetuity, almost $600 million in payroll, a significant amount of revenue to help support our local schools and government operations, and really has a chance to help transform downtown. You know, we are very much still, part of our DNA is that we're a government town. We have a large Carnegie Research One fantastic university, the Army's largest training base in the world, in our city, and using that as a wonderful hedge of protection against the downtimes in the economy. It's our job to work to stimulate a good, strong private sector, and we've been able to leverage the intellectual property coming out of the university and working very closely with an insurance technology cluster and a healthcare cluster to try and help entrepreneurial startups and support even some of our larger enterprises like Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina and Colonial Life and Aflac 3 years ago had no one in Columbia. Now they have almost 1,000 employees. And really just I think harnessing a great deal of energy to help focus on what almost all of our constituents are focused on: job creation, jobs. We want jobs. We want more jobs. We want better jobs.
More of them. Well, when you think about all of the urban and regional planning, you know, you talk about education facilities that are available. You talk about transportation and infrastructure that it's available. So, you know, Charlotte has ridden long on our fact that we had the airport here, and now that's become a center of controversy for us. We have an intermodal facility on board. So, you know, bringing some of those linkages across the Carolinas. So, you know, from your vantage point, Patsy, you've been sitting in here in the hot seat for a little while. Where do you think Charlotte really needs to put its next foot forward?
Well, obviously, we need to continue to build our comprehensive transportation system, because that means so much to the economic development of Charlotte. And we're very fortunate over the years. The business community and local government has worked very closely, and I think that's why we have been able to grow. We continue to get companies to look here. We recruit companies, and we're continuing to grow. But it's things like you mentioned. They want to be able to fly in and out of Charlotte easily. They want to be able to get around Charlotte easily. They want the good education opportunities, and we've just been very fortunate over the years that we've been able to continue to do that, and I think that's what we will continue to do.
Don't you think the young people these days too are more concerned about sustainability? You know, they're concerned about the environment and the quality of water, you know, the resources that we have and the abundance of our natural resources. So, you know, from your vantage points, how does that play into economic development and local governance?
City of Asheville just won a recognition at the U.S. Conference of Mayors for our sustainability efforts, and what we have done, we created a revolving sustainability pool of funds that we continue to reinvest in sustainability efforts. We changed over our lighting system in our city, so all our street lights are moving towards LED lighting, and so with those cost savings, instead of putting those funds back into the general fund to compete against, you know, the needs in public safety or Parks and Rec, we said, how about we take those funds and reinvest them into more sustainability issues that need to come forward. And so as a result, we were able to transform into a single stream system for our recycling system. So we saw an increase in the number of people who are recycling, as well as the types of things they're recycling. And so we are putting those cost savings in and saving money there and seeing the results in our community. As a community, as a city, we made a commitment to reduce our carbon footprint by 4% on an annual basis. We are exceeding that number, and we're doing it not only as a city, but we're working with community partners. We put in a compressed natural gas fueling station, and so we knew that our fleet wasn't enough to keep it going. So we partnered with the major employers in the community. We partnered with the county. We talked to Mission Health System, and they said we're coming on board, and they bought some vehicles to go in the fleet. And so now we're really part of a connection between the east and the west and everything in between to have CNG, so that anybody that has a CNG car can come and fuel up. And we not only stopped there, we made sure that we had electric vehicle fueling stations as well. And so we put them on public property. And so for the first 2 years of their existence, it's completely free to anyone who uses it. And so it's those types of things that we put in place. We increased our ridership on our transit system, because what we're finding is people, given the opportunity, they will take public transit as long as it meets their needs. And so we're seeing the numbers bear out. And so for our community, sustainability is not just a buzzword, it's a quality of life, a way of life.
It's a behavior change, right?
It
It's
really
a pattern.
is.
Absolutely, and Asheville's been a benchmark for that for other cities to aspire towards. It is true in hard infrastructure as well. The city of Florence has seen that. We had for a long time operated solely on, for a water system, solely on wells that were depleting the aquifer at, frankly, an alarming rate. And that's true even more so in the western part of the state and the country. And it was depleting the aquifer for ourselves and for our neighbors. We invested in a $40 million surface water treatment plant to bring water off the PD River and to diversify our water usage such that we weren't having that massive impact on the aquifer and our neighbors, and have also built a $100 million new wastewater treatment plant that has LEED certified elements of it and recaptures gases as it emits to conserve those fuels. And those are the things that cities are looking towards as ways to conserve, not only because of the environmental protective nature of it, which we should maintain, but also because of the economic possibilities that are there if you conserve and build wisely into the future. And certainly the young people that are coming up in this community are expecting that and are demanding that, as they should.
Absolutely. We have seen a paradigm shift in the way people think about sustainability. And the reality is that we all know that we're competing for the best talent there is in the world. We want to attract the most talented, the most educated, and entrepreneurial people out there, because sometimes we're competing against each other, but oftentimes we're competing against Bangkok and Mexico City and Richmond and New York City, and things aren't the way they were 100 years ago, where a manufacturing facility would open up and everyone would go to the town or city looking for that job. Now people have choices where they want to live, and now employers are determining, okay, where is the talent pool, and they'll go to the talent. So now our citizens, they ask about the arts, they ask about culture, they ask about greenways and bike paths, and is your city truly multimodal? Have you made the investments in transportation like Charlotte? I mean, are you a wonderful dynamic? And Stephen, they're doing a fantastic job down there, pulling together university and the arts, and everyone loves Asheville. I get tired of hearing about all the incredible things that Terry and her team are doing up there. But you're trying to become attractive to the brightest minds from all around the world. And if you do that, then good businesses will stumble over themselves to locate in your city. And sustainability is such a key part of that.
You know, we're following Asheville's lead. We've got a sustainability plan, and we've just, we celebrate a year now. We have bicycles parked around the city. People are using those bicycles to travel. We have the Greenway, and the city's also put up solar panels on top of Discovery Place and also on the parking deck, and it supplies some electricity for the electric cars to use to plug in. So it's all those kinds of things that add up to.
What's neat for me to see is more than just the young college students riding around on their bicycles, but people who look like you, sitting in suits and ties, that are making their way through the city streets on their bicycles.
As our cities are changing, as people come to the South and are looking for great places to live, they want to know that what that quality of life that they had in other areas is not only going to be that, it's going to be better. And I think that's what they're getting when they're coming to southern cities.
So we are about to the end of our conversation, believe it or not. This has been really rewarding and very fun. So in 30 seconds or less each, if you think about one thing that we can be projecting for our future of the Carolinas from your vantage points, give it to me here in a few words. Let's start with you, Steve.
Well, I think the word is growth. I mean, what I think all of our cities have in common is we've seen massive growth. The city of Florence has seen 25% growth in the last 10 years. And the challenge for us as mayors is to harness that growth, to do it in a responsible and sustainable way, sometimes to do it by ourselves without the help from Washington or Columbia or Raleigh, and to develop partnerships, nonprofits, private entrepreneurs, and our councils to help move forward with this growth that is happening in the southeastern part of the United States.
I'll talk about the fact that we're growing our own in Asheville. We are not just looking at companies coming to our community and having a great start and expanding. We're excited about that, but we're also looking at that entrepreneurial spirit and how we make sure that we're encouraging small businesses to take that next step to grow, making sure that someone who has an idea that they can actually start that business. And so I think it's looking at that continuum of creation to move forward.
I'm gonna have to
Sorry.
cut you off there. We've got growth and we have entrepreneurship, and you can't say either of those.
Bet on cities.
right.
Bruce Katz's book, Metropolitan Revolution, talks about the strength of cities and metro economies, and they're driving the debate now.
You get one sentence.
Regionalism, because working together, we can make it happen.
Regionalism it is. So it's been raining in the Carolinas. We still have lots of rainbows, and we certainly have a lot of pot of gold. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review was provided by the Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. Who's responsible for rising healthcare costs? Join us and many others in a candid discussion at letstalkcost.com. Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. Novant Health, bringing you world-class technology, clinicians, and care when and where you need it. Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services, with more than 300 operations in 35 countries. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina, where healthcare is changing for the better. Find out how at ahealthysc.tv. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Promotional consideration provided by Business North Carolina Magazine. For more information, visit carolinabusinessreview.com.